Hi guys, today I'm here with our informational text or nonfiction text about a bean's life cycle. And I'm saying text, not test, text like in a book. So on this picture cover, I see a bean. It looks like maybe a green bean, and I see like little pods in there, and I see an arrow that's pointing around. Because remember, life cycles are a circle, and a cycle means it comes back around like a circle. And this book is by Mary R. Dunn. So I think she took the pictures and wrote the words. Okay, so in this book, like in our previous book, that's informational text, we have a table of contents. We have planting seeds on page 4, sprouting seeds on page 8, flowering plants on page 12, hanging pods on page 16, a glossary on page 22, read more on page 23, internet sites on page 23, critical thinking questions on page 24, and an index on page 24. So those are what's going to be happening on the different pages, because this has page numbers since it's informational text. Okay, so I'm going to read you the words since this is a big book. It's easier for Miss Marlene if I read you the words and then show you the picture. So, planting seeds. It is spring. Now remember, spring is a season. We have fall, winter, spring, and summer. And spring is the time when things grow. Broad beans, that's the name of the bean that we're going to be reading about, seeds, are planted in soil. Soil is dirt. With water and warm temperatures, the bean seeds begin to change. So they're showing the seed right here, and it's sprouting and it's getting roots. And we read that up, we saw that a little bit in our book about sunflowers. Okay, so I'm going to turn to page 6 now. Tiny white roots break out of the seed and reach down into the soil. Roots bring nutrients, which is like minerals and vitamins. We get nutrients from our food. Plants get the nutrients from the soil. So roots bring nutrients from the soil to the seed. The roots hold the plant in place. So the roots do two things. They hold the plant into the soil so they don't fall over and die, and they bring nutrients and water to the plants. So there's a picture of the roots and the sprout out of the seed. So let's see, on page 8, what it's going to tell us. So page 8 is about sprouting seeds. Soon a bean shoot sprouts. It pops through the soil and becomes the stem. So a bean shoot becomes the stem. Tiny leaves on the stem start to grow. The leaves begin to open. So here it's showing the different stages of growth. So here's where it's popping up out of the ground. You can see the roots in the soil, and then the shooting. And so here's the stem, and here are the sprouts, or the leaves, I should say. Now we're on page 10. Roots take in water from the soil. The stem carries water to the leaves. Leaves use water, air, and sunlight to make food for the plant. So the stem is what holds the plant, but see, look, it's getting bigger now. You're seeing actual view of the beans growing, the leaves in the soil. So stem is like legs and a straw. So it brings the water up to the leaves, and it brings the nutrients from the soil. And you also need sunlight. So you need water, air, and sunlight to grow. The leaves use all those things to grow and make food. we need those things too. To live because we eat plants, right? So we also need water, air, and sunlight. Okay, now I'm on page 12. Flowering plants. Flower buds appear at the bottom of the leaves. These black and white flowers have pollen. Remember we learned about pollen? It's what bees use to help things grow. They also have a sweet juice called nectar, and the bees like the nectar too. So there's, oh look, black and white flowers. I didn't know that beans had black and white flowers. And so the pictures are always on the opposite page, and I forget to pick up that page number sometimes, or a lot of the time, but page 13 is showing you the picture of the plants. Page 14. Buzz. A bee lands on a flower to sip nectar. The bee has pollen on it from a different flower. The pollen will make beans grow. So when the bee goes, and here's the bee on page 15, he goes from flower to flower, or she, depending, and deposits pollen from the other plant onto the new plant, and that's what helps make the beans grow while it sips the nectar. So bees are very, very important. That's why if it doesn't land on you, you know how you guys like to swat, don't swat at the bee. It won't sting you unless you swat at it. And bees are very important for us. They help us grow food. Page 16. Hanging pods. Bean pods grow and the flowers begin to die. The pods are lumpy and thick. They protect the seed inside. So here's the bean pods. These are bean pods. So the flowers die and this is what's left. And they're kind of bumpy. It's hard to tell on this page. And the beans, and these are broad beans. These aren't green beans. But they kind of work the same. So the seeds are inside of here. If you eat a green bean at dinner, you can cut it in half. Maybe I'll do that for you. We'll look at seeds one day. We'll cut it in half and we'll look at the seeds. Maybe that'll be one of our small groups. I wonder if you'd enjoy that. Okay. On page 18, bean plants have about 12 bean pods. Each pod will have 3 to 8 seeds. So look, they cut it, here's the leaves, and here's the pod, and then here are the seeds. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 seeds. Let's count that again. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 5 seeds in that bean pod. So I wonder if the green beans we eat are bean pods. Some pods are picked to eat. Other pods dry out and pop open. Their seeds fall out. These seeds may become new plants in spring. And then here it's showing you the ones that aren't picked. And so these are going to drop to the ground into the soil and become new bean pods. And that's on page 21. So it's a cycle. The bean grows and it has seeds inside it, and then when it dies, it drops the seeds and new beans grow the next year. And that was the end of our story about bean pods, but glossary. A bud, a small shoot on a plant that grows into a leaf or a flower. Maybe next time I read one of these books, we'll read the glossary first, and then we'll go on to read the story. Nectar, a sweet liquid found in many flowers. And then it talks about pod, pollen, root, shoot, soil, and stem. And then if we wanted more information, here's the read more on page 23 and some internet sites we could go to on page 23. It's talking about Facthound, which is a good site for kids to go into. And then there's a code you could put in too. If you want that code, have your mom message me and I will give it to you. So some of the questions they want us to do, it says we're going to reread page 10, and we want to know the important things that stems do for plants. So see, there's some questions here. So it's telling me to go back to page 10. We're going to reread it, and then we're going to think about the important thing that stems do for plants. So let's reread it. Roots take in water from the soil. The stems carry water to the leaves. Leaves use water, air, and sunlight to make food for the plant. So what is so important about a stem? What does the stem do? What's important about a stem to a plant? They help carry the water up to the plant, up to the leaves, so that they can make food to make the beans for us. So if there was no stem, their water couldn't get there and it wouldn't grow beans. The second question is, how do beans help bean plants grow? Not beans. How do bees? How do bees help bean plants grow? And see that question mark right there? So how do the bees help? Do you remember what we talked about? They sip the nectar, and when they're doing that, they get pollen, and then they take that pollen to another plant, and it helps it grow beans. Or it could be apples, it could be strawberries. Bees help all those things grow. We're not going to do question 3 because we got to find the word in the glossary, and you guys, we don't need to do that. So that's the end of our book. What'd you think about this book? I thought this book was interesting. I liked it. It told me some information about beans that I didn't necessarily know before, and I always like learning new things. So what did you think about the book? Tell somebody in your house, your brother, your sister, your dog, your cat, your fish, your mom, your dad, grandma, grandpa, whoever lives with you, you can tell them. And I will see you later. Bye.